Today, actually, I'm planning to do a KT session on Angular basics since it is a first session, and I think we can continue in future with the advanced topics. So, before continue on, I thought of doing a practical session so you can learn how to create a project, how to create component, and how you can interact. I think most of dev guys now should know these things. How to interact in between component and how to pass data. So those things and basic directives. I will talk those things during the KT session today. So first of all, before moving anything, can someone tell me what is Angular? Is it okay to have an interactive session or shall I just continue?
Yeah. That's the best.
Okay.
Okay, let me answer this. I think it's a front-end framework to design the UIs and do the manage the dynamic content.
Yeah. It's actually invented by Google, and it is a TypeScript-based framework. Normally, we had a front-end framework with JavaScript earlier frameworks. This one is based on TypeScript, and it's like a open source framework, and you can create a single page application from Angular. So, what is meaning of the single page application? Anyone knows what's the meaning of that? Now, always we are saying no, that single page application we are developing kind of things. Single page application is actually it's a web application, kind of web application which provides a very fast experience, reactive and fast experience like a desktop application. So it contains a kind of menus, buttons, things in the page, and once you click on those items, it dynamically rewrites the current page without loading the page from the server. That's what called single page application. So Angular is supporting single page, supporting to develop a single page application. And also Angular is based on the component. Main building blocks is component. It has multiple parent-child component that you are using to interact with each other. And also now sometimes I heard now most of the people are confusing it Angular JS and Angular. Like now we have different versions now. Angular JS, then Angular starting from Angular 2 to now I think 10 is also there. So incremental versions are there. So Angular JSON is Angular 1.0. We call it Angular JS. Angular is actually totally different from the Angular, which is that started from Angular 2.0. That are totally different framework. So let me first show you the prerequisites that you need to have or need to create an Angular application. So main things you need is you need to have Node.js and npm, and also you need to have Angular CLI installed in your machine. For example, let me check my versions. So if anywhere, if you go to the command prompt and if you print node -v, you can check that whether you have node installed in your machine, and you can type npm -v and check whether you have npm installed in your machine. Now these are the first two things, and then you need Angular CLI. So Angular CLI, you can check like this. What are the Angular versions that installed in your machines? Now here Angular CLI 8. Since we are using in our Halaga project, we are using Angular 8. Now my current installed Angular version is Angular CLI 8. And there are some main libraries that packages installed within that framework, CLI. And let's say you don't have your Angular in your machine, so what you can do, you have to install that. What you can do, you can call npm and -i or install. Sorry, not minus, npm I, or you can type whole word install. And then you have to say, you have to install it globally. Install it globally means you don't need to, when you're creating a project, you don't, the Angular, the ng command will apply globally in anywhere in your project structure. So, and then you can give at Angular /CLI. So since I have installed Angular already, I'm not going to run this command here. But this is how you can install Angular CLI framework in your project if you want to start developing on Angular projects. And now I will create a simple application and I will explain the project structure, and then I will continue with the that application by doing different tasks, right? Like different features I will add and show you. Let me create a folder demo and then here. So to create an Angular application, Angular CLI framework provides some commands to create component, to create a project. Different commands are there. So to create a project, you can use engine new, and then you can give a name. Let's say my demo. So this is how you can create a project. Then it asks you, would you like to add Angular routing? Angular routing means if you want to navigate in different pages, when you click on the link or when you click on the menu or button, so we are navigating in different areas in the site. So for that you need a routing. So I'm saying yes, and then it is asking me which template, CSS template I'm going to use in this project. So these are the different kind of CSS framework kind of things that you can use. Now I am using CSS. Now it's creating my project. It's install the basic files that need to run my project, like the required basic files, and also install the libraries that I need to run my project. It will taking time. Okay, now I have created my Angular application. Can remember what's the name I give my. So I can go into my application. I type cd. So now I am inside the application. Let me open it in Visual Studio Code. Okay, now this is my basic, initial Angular application. Let me go through each and every folder, the main and folders. This is actually end-to-end testing kind of things. This is we are not going to edit or we are not going to do anything on this inside of this folder. And this one is called node modules. These are the third-party libraries or the Angular related libraries that need to run our Angular application. So we are not going to edit anything inside the node modules also. And we are not committing this node modules folder also. When you commit your code into Git repository, this folder is excluded. And when you want to run a project, you have to install these node modules to the project. So all these node modules are defined inside this package.json. So under the dependencies and the dev dependencies, all these libraries are defined with the version. And if you run npm install, all these libraries are installing into your local folder that you can run your application. And now this is the place now we are doing our coding. Under the src, under the app, we can create a structure like modules, and then we can create a different folder hierarchies for different components. Now I told you like the Angular basic element of Angular is a component. Now here when we creating a new project, it will create a first component. This app component PS is the first component in our application. So this component has three sections. One is import section. Now it's importing the component from the Angular core library, and this is a decorator, component decorator, where you give a selector, the name for this component. So if you use this selector tag anywhere in your HTML code, you can import this code and the relevant HTML. You can display the relevant HTML part of this component in your browser. And this is the template URL. So HTML, this component is attached, or this component is showing the content inside this app component HTML. Here it defines the template URL and the SCSS. If you want to have any style changes related to this component, you can define it inside here. And here all those things are mentioned within the component decorator. And this part is the part where you define your logic. Within this class, you can define all of your TypeScript coding and logic. Let me show now. This is the index.html file. Now, index.html file is the one it's loading at first when you are loading your application in the browser. Sorry. We woke up. Okay. So now this index.html file, inside this body section, now we have opened our, we have call our app component TS file. Here, if you check the app component TS, the selector is approved. So what we are doing is inside the index.html, we are defining the approved selector as a HTML element, which means now that component HTML and the TS things are loading inside this index.html file. Let me go and check First, I will start my application. You can start it in. You can run this application locally by giving ngserve command, and this will open up a browser, and this will run a light server. Light server. Light server and shows the content of your application. Give me a minute. Hadish, I'm really sorry. Give me a minute, Hadish.
Sure, Nissan sir.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Nissan sir.
Okay. Now I have run my application, and let me go and open it in browser. So this is you can access your light server by typing localhost and 4204. So now this is my content. This is a default content actually. When you're creating an Angular application using the command, this default content is coming, and when you're creating a project. So if you check the component HTML file, so these content are there in the HTML file. The project name is coming here. You define a project name. The title, the name I gave when I'm creating a project is there, and this way you can call a variable and display the value of that variable here. Now this is the name I gave, and all the other things are default things that coming when you're creating an Angular project from the CLI command. And let me go and change this content and create our own simple application. Let me create a small header. Header part, and then I'll create a container. View another view here. Then I will add the extra and the tag here, and then I'll give some right. And then I'll give some name here, my first or something. These are static content. Up to now I didn't add any dynamic content here. So, and let me display some navigations. And I got an ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට වැඩක් මෙතන I'll add the router link and I will explain how I'm going to use that. For the moment, I'll add the router link here and I'll give path test landing and and I'll add another thing here for the, let's say, home page. Home page here. Now, basic structure of the HTML I have done. Now I'm going to actually do a like create a two separate component and show you how you're going to do the routing and how you navigate in between this component. So first, if I check my application now, my first step this is showing here. My first step thing, and then I have two links to navigate. Right now the navigation part is not there, but this is how it's done. And then let me add small styling here for this. I'll copy paste styling part. So I have added here. I'll just explain. Actually, I have to edit note here. I will add these things in the global style CSS folder here. I will just explain the styling part. So here what I have imported the font family from here, and this is the primary color I gave to display my site, and the font family and sizes and the margin and header things. Each and now this is using SAS. Now this is how it defined, like inside the UL tag. This is the styling related to UL, and inside the UL I have LI tags, and the LI tags anchor tag styles are defined like this. And when you hover in the anchor tags, the background color will be darkened by 10% from the primary color. So these are some things, and like let me see now our site. Now this is our first site which we have defined, like nothing is working right now, just a template. Now let me go ahead and create two different components. So to create a component, now this command prompt is running our application, so I will open up another one. And the command to generate the component is ng generate, or you can type just G, and then to define its component you can say component or just C. And let me create a landing component. And then I will create another home component. So if I go and check my project structure now, two components are there, home component and the landing component. Now you will see the command will generate all the template file for me. Now what I wanted to do is I want to display this content in the browser. So for that I have to add a routing for this component. And another thing is, when you create a component, you have to declare that component inside the app module TS. So when you're running the command, it is automatically added. Actually, you don't have to do anything. So now I have 3 components in my folder, my project. One is app component, and now I have added 2 other components, landing and home component. So all the 3 are defined in the declaration. If I remove this, it will give me an error when I am running the application. Okay, and let me define the routing. So now we have gone through the component file packages and app module, and the routing we are defined here inside the app routing module. Routing paths you have to define here inside the app routing modules. So let me first import the component that we need to define our path here. So first I'm going to import landing component. Let me landing, and if I say from and do this, it will show me the path. Let me check the component. So when you're importing, you have to use this class name here. Let's add routing module. Put this, and then for some reason it's not doing the landing component is declared, but its value is never from master is show here. /landing component. Okay, now I have imported the landing component, and then I will import the home component here. Home component. It's coming under home component. Now I have imported my 2 components here. Now I want to define the routing for these 2 components. So to define the routing here, the basic routing variable is declared here. So you need to add a path here inside this routing array. So let's say for the landing component, if you just trying to open a browser, if you want to load a landing component, so what you can do is you can define a path, and then you can give a path that's empty path. If there's nothing defined inside the URL, so you are going to load the landing component. So you can define component, and then you can give the landing component here. And again, I am going to define, if someone type /landing again, still I am going to load the landing component. So here someone type landing in the URL path, loading it. And if someone type home in the URL path, I am loading home component. So this is how you can define the routing in the app routing TS folder. And let me check now in my component HTML, I have defined the router links. So now, which means now here I have a li tag which display landing text, and if you click on that, it is the router path of this is defined as a landing, which means you are loading a landing component, because here we define if the path has landing, you have to load the landing component. If the path has home, you have to load the home component. Now let me go and check. Now if I check landing, it's not loading here. I have removed actually in the app component HTML. There's a thing called router outlet. When I removing that content, initial content, I have removed that also accidentally. I think this is how it's defined. So which means now the inside the routing you are defining the component, and that component loading the place where define the router outlet tag displays that the component is loading into this place. So if I don't have this, come in. So now even though I click, nothing is loading. So now if I have this, now in the landing HTML, text is called landing works, and the home home component HTML display home works. So let's say now my path is landing works is there, and my path is home works is there. So those are the basic routing related things. Then,
Instance, I have a question.
yeah.
Can you go back to the code? Click on app component HTML.
App component.
So here what you are saying is if you click on a router link, the content of the router link will be loaded inside the router outlet element.
Yeah.
Okay.
That component is loading inside the route outlet.
If we add content into that element, now let's say I type hello world inside the element, right?
Yes.
What will happen? Will it display hello world in both pages?
I don't think so. I haven't did that part anyway. Because this is actually this is used to define when the component that you define in the Angular app routing mode place is loaded into that.
It's just like a placeholder.
Yeah, placeholder. But let me check, and because I haven't done that part actually. Let me add something. It's showing, right? It's showing both. Yeah. The hello text is showing in both the place.
Okay.
Any other question?
That's all from me.
Okay. Shall I move on the other areas?
Yeah, Nisha, sir.
Okay. Then let's say in the landing component, we will do a small like there are a few directives that we are frequently using in Angular. Directives are like if you want to do the if-else condition, check the conditional displaying things, or if you want to run a loop, there are a few directives that I will show and how you can use them in your application. Let me create a first, I will show you how to work on the events in Angular. And now, if I go to landing, this is displaying here. I will just one tag, and I will add a view here. We'll add some input. Huh? Input type text. And I'll add a button here. Let's call submit. And what I'm going to do is when I'm now check my HTML. I have a text field added and a submit button is there. And now what I'm going to do is I will display the content I'm typing inside my input text field. Here I'll add a paragraph or span display type and whatever the content I'm going to type. So now what I'm going to do is when I'm type here, and if I click on the submit button, I will show the text that I have typed here in below. So what I can do is Angular, you can define event like this within brackets. Now this is input tab. So submit button, click event. How you define within the button, you can give the click event, and you can give the function you're calling when user click on the click event. Will display type text or something. So this is how you define call a method when and even define a click event inside a button. Then I will define my method here, display type text method, and I will get a value. And let me first put the alert. So in the HTML, now this text, whatever the text that you type into this HTML, you can access by giving the ID to this HTML. Let's say I'll give text TT or something. So this is the reference ID kind of thing. And I can pass this value to the method like this. And now I got this value from here, and I put the alert first. So let me check. So now I type something and I click on submit button. So alert came here with the value. And let me wait. Well, I'm not good at HTML and styling, so let me break here. Let's see.
Charmita is with us, so you
Yeah.
can get the support from her.
Uh, okay. Then now I'm going to I put a alert. Now I'm going to display that value here. So here I'll define a variable type text or something, and then I am giving a type of that variable. I am trying to hold a string value. So the type text, the value type is string, and the initialize as a empty string. And then I'm assigning this value into this variable. So what I can do is I can click on this value. The variable is preferred using the, you have to prefer this variable by calling this keyword. Otherwise, it will show you the error. You can't just access like this. So you have to, since this is a global variable, and if you want to access a variable, in the HTML side, you have to define it as a global variable here. Then using this keyword, you can access that variable and assign a value. Now this type text has a value, whatever the value that I have typed, and then I'm going to print it here. So to print it, you can use, this is called interpolation. So within the double curly brace, you can give the variable name. Now if I type, let's say I type my name and then type submit, the value is displayed here. And there is another feature called models. Like without clicking on the submit button, whenever you type in something in the text field, you can display that value here without clicking the submit button. For that, you have to use ng models for this input text field. So let me use the NP model. And here now I am going to use this type text variable as a NG model value. Now when I using NG model, I have to use the forms. I have to import Angular forms into my project. So otherwise it will show me this error. NG models can't bind NG model since it is known property of input. I'll just search this so then I can get the fix. So here you have to import forms module inside your app module TS if you want to use this ng model attribute here within the input fields. So now here in the app module section, inside the import section, I'm going to import this, and I will add the, it is also coming from Angular core library. Now if I check my so the way I used it, so let me check ng model. This is right. Okay. Simple. It should be simple len. Starting from simple. Now, whenever I type anything, so it will display without clicking on the submit button. And let me initiate my variable here with some text. This is actually supporting two-way bindings. So whenever the things you define in the TS is displaying in the HTML, and whenever the thing you type in the HTML also signing into the variable. See, please type here, text is displaying here now. And if I want to remove and type something, this is showing. Okay, so this is about some events and the NG models that we can use within the Angular. And also there are a few other events like in the input text, you can use change event and the input event. Kind of different events are supporting. So the way you use events are like this. Normally in the plain the HTML, the JavaScript were like using click and like that. So here you have to use with the parentheses and you have to call the event. And then I will move into some if else condition. Let me use another section here. Conditional. Okay, now I will do something like this. I will create an array and then I will iterate that array here inside this. Let me create an array, my array, and I will create a string type of array. String. Oh, and I assign that, initialize that array. It's you don't have any values yet. Now in the in Angular, there are few called life cycle methods. Like this ng on init is one of the life cycle method. There are few ng after view init and ng on destroy, kind of different life cycle method are there. So life cycle method means in ng on init method is calling whenever, each time when you load your component into browser, on init method is calling, and this is calling on at only one time. So if you want to initialize some values, if you want to call a service that should display data when it is just after it's loading without clicking any button or any menus, so those things you have to call inside this ng on init method. Now I am going to assign some values into this array. So again, I have to use this dot my array. My array, then push. I'll give some names, Ansala, and now I'm going to display this array element inside the HTML, in the browser. So how I can access or loop this array? So what I have to do is, let me create another div. I will create a element and then I will add a li, and here I will iterate this. So this is one of the directives supported by Angular ng4 directive. So you can create a variable. When you create a variable, you have to give let and then let's say my value or something. Okay. And then of, then you can give an array name here. Now my array name is this. Then here I am going to print this value. And let me check. See, now it has displayed. I iterate my array and displayed it within li tags. So this and then let me show you how I can show the conditionally. How I can show the content based on the conditions. Let's say I want to print this array values. If these values, if I have a array, if I have an empty array, let's say I want to display some content, array is empty or something. If it is not, I want to display this values of the array. So for that, what I can do is, I will add another, let's say, span. And then I will add a condition like this, ng if, and then I'm going to check length of my array. My array dot length is greater than 0. Length is greater than 0. Then I'm going to display this. Else, what I'm going to do? Else, I'm going to print something else. So for that, let's say empty array. So what I'm going to do now, here I have to define a template to display the else part. Now the template ID is empty array. And now here I am going to define array. Let's say it's 5 or something. Array is empty. So if the array value is greater than length is greater than 0, I am displaying the array. If not, I am displaying array is empty. So now I have values in my array. I think something issue ng template. ng template 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 incorrect spellings. Template like this, no? Okay, now my values are there, so let me comment my array here. Now I am having an empty array, so let me check what is happening. So it's printing array is empty. So those are the basic things. Do I have time to go with another two concepts like at input and at output operators? So shall I stop here since it is 5:53? Only
These
one
are
hour.
basically directives that
Yeah.
you are talking about, ne?
Yeah.
How many directives are there basically in a game?
Count wise, I'm not sure. There are a few.
Can you do switch, while loop?
No. switch, case switch you can do in the TS side from here, not inside the HTML.
So, is it possible to write custom directives?
Yeah. You can write, it's called, you can define like pipe directives. Pipes you can define. Like, for example, if you want to format the dates, kind of things, you can create them. So, any other question?
Sharmita Supun probably they might have some they should have some questions.
So this is how it's like define custom directives.
No, custom directives.
Yeah. You can generate and you can define whatever the logic you want to add, like formatting things and stuff.
Hello, this is Salake.
Oh,
So that means we can declare any custom directives, right?
yeah.
And we can implement the logic inside that keyword, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's all? Or?
Yeah, that's all. I hope it will helpful for all of you. Because actually those are basic.
Yeah.
So if you know the basic, that other things you can capture quickly.
Yeah. So I mean, like a rule of thumb, right? If you know the basics, then of course you can do advanced stuff. Okay, then I think we can wrap up the session, and we'll arrange another session to discuss more advanced stuff in Angular.
Yeah, sure.
And thank you, Nisamsara. Thank you for your time and effort.